Cathaoirleach, and can I start by thanking deputies for their engagement in what is a really important debate here on the important issues in respect of fisheries. And just to say, it's very evident from the debate here the impact and the concern across all our coastal communities, as raised by deputies here, particularly in Donegal and in Cork, where we know it's just such an intrinsic part of our economic activity, but as it is in Waterford, in Clare, in Dublin, which is sometimes forgotten in terms of coastal communities and economic activity. Clare, as Minister Dooley knows all too well, Mayo Deputy Lawless raised specific points there which relate to inland fisheries, and Minister Dooley will come back to wearing his other hat under the other department side, and the specific questions there Deputy Collins raised. In my 10 minutes here, I don't have time to go back through them all, but Minister Dooley will engage with you in correspondence on those very detailed specific points. But just to flag here, the waters around Ireland's 7,500-kilometre coastline have always been a source for remarkable seafood. Fishing remains of significant social and economic importance to Ireland, and for many of our coastal communities it is intrinsically linked to their identity and the way of life. This is a sector which employs over 15,000 people across fishing vessels, aquaculture sites, in processing operations and in the distribution of seafood, helping to sustain vibrant rural and coastal communities across Ireland. But right now it is a sector under significant pressure. I, along with Minister of State Dooley, share many of the concerns raised here during the course of this debate, particularly those in relation to the setting of fishing opportunities in 2026. As has been outlined on September 30th, ICES, the International Council for Exploration of the Seas, published deeply concerning advice for widely distributed pelagic stocks in 2026, depleted, including mackerel, blue whiting and boarfish. This has caused deep and understandable concern for the sector. Given the urgent nature of these concerns, Ireland will bring a point under any other business to the EU Agri-Fish Council next week on a call for urgent EU action to save North East Atlantic pelagic stocks. In this call for the European Commission to identify and adopt suitable measures to respond to this crisis, and in particular bring forward measures regarding third countries which fail to cooperate and that allow unsustainable fishing of a stock of common interest for the Union. Ireland will support the EU in taking a stand to engage constructively and as an equal partner with our fellow coastal states in the North East Atlantic on the sustainable management of our shared fisheries resources. However, we must send a clear signal that the EU will no longer tolerate actions which threaten the sustainability of this vital natural resource or the viability of the EU's seafood sector. In addition, we are committed to working across government to assess what supports may be available to the seafood sector in this very difficult context. Discussions are ongoing to explore options in this space within the constraints of both the EU and national exchequer funding and the relevant EU and national legislation. As regards bluefin tuna, which was highlighted here earlier, I fully understand the very strong lobby amongst Irish fishermen for Ireland to receive an allocation of the EU's bluefin tuna quota. Ireland has a national quota for northern albacore tuna. Annual catch limits are set by the International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas based on scientific advice. Ireland does not have a national quota for bluefin tuna. The available bluefin tuna quota is allocated each year to Member States based on a relative stability as established in the late 1990s. At that time, Ireland did not have a track record of commercial fishing for bluefin tuna and accordingly did not receive a quota allocation. However, a small bluefin tuna bycatch quota is available to Ireland primarily for use in our important northern albacore tuna fishery and Celtic sea herring fishery, where there can be bluefin tuna bycatch. In 2018, Ireland was successful for the first time in securing an agreement that allowed it to set up a catch tag release fishery to contribute to the collection of scientific data for the bluefin tuna stock. This catch tag release science-based fishery for authorised recreational angling vessels has been in place since 2019. And supports the collection of valuable data on the migratory patterns of bluefin tuna in Irish waters. This fishery is most beneficial to Ireland as it increases our knowledge of the behaviour and abundance of bluefin tuna while also providing a small but valuable tourism benefit to peripheral coastal communities. Ireland has made it clear to the EU Member States and the European Commission that there is a case for an allocation of the EU's bluefin tuna quota to be made available to Ireland. The case is supported by the data collected in the catch tag release science-based fishery for authorised recreational angling vessels. Ireland has requested the opening of discussions at EU level to progress Ireland's case, and Ireland has made formal statements on the matter at numerous fisheries councils in recent years. Opening up this issue is difficult as other Member States are resistant to any discussion on amending relative stability for this stock. As is the case across quota stocks in the EU, any change to relative stability would involve a loss for some other member states and therefore poses particular challenges in a qualified majority voting context. However, the case for a national quota for bluefin tuna is supported by the data collected in the catch tag release science-based fishery for authorised recreational angling vessels, and I and Minister Dooley will continue to support our efforts on this at every available opportunity. The ongoing impacts of Brexit to the sector and the extension to EU-UK trade agreement have also been raised here. I know it's a significant frustration to the sector that Ireland did not get some quota back from the EU in the discussions which ended in May this year. The challenge we have faced in this area has been the comparative strength of the UK negotiating position to that of the EU's. UK vessels do not rely on access to the EU waters to fish to the same extent that EU vessels do. North Sea member states, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Denmark and Sweden are particularly reliant on access to the UK EEZ. While Irish vessels are not dependent, as we do fish approximately, we're not as dependent, we do fish approximately 1/3 of our catch in UK waters. Therefore, the 2020 EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the TCA, a strategic link was established between fisheries and energy. Without the agreement at the May summit, we faced the possibility of the UK either refusing to agree to a multi-year reciprocal access arrangement or seeking further quota transfers in order to agree to continued access for EU vessels. This was especially relevant as we approached the end of the adjustment period. This was critically important for Ireland as we suffered disproportionately on quota transfers in the TCA, and we were determined not to lose one more fish. Given the number of fish stocks shared between the EU and UK, over 80 stocks, it would not be feasible to negotiate and agree on access to waters and quotas on an annual basis. Therefore, the priority was to secure a continuation of the current arrangements with continued reciprocal access and no further transfers in quota from the EU to the UK. Ireland sought the longest possible extension to the status quo on condition of there being no additional quotas transferred to the UK. The Fisheries Agreement sees an extension of 12 years to the status quo to June 2038, significantly longer than the 4 years previously sought by the United Kingdom. The certainty of an agreement to extend reciprocal access for the EU and UK vessels to fish in each other's waters for a period of 12 years with no change to existing quota shares is therefore welcome and a much better outcome than some of the other possibilities. I also welcome the commitment to a negotiation of a sanitary and phytosanitary SPS agreement between the EU and the UK. This will be based on dynamic alignment by the UK with the EU food safety standards and rules. There are long-established and mutually beneficial trading relationships between food producers in Ireland and food business and retailers in the UK. A comprehensive SPS agreement would greatly reduce the administrative burden on agri-food businesses exporting to the UK. Many of you have also raised the point of Rockall, both today and in previous debates, and the desire of Irish fishermen to return to fishing in the waters around Rockall, especially for squid. Rockall is a small, uninhabitable rock located approximately 160 nautical miles west of the Scottish islands of St Kilda and 230 nautical miles to the northwest of Donegal, as we all know. Ireland has not sought to claim sovereignty over Rockall. The UK claimed sovereignty over Rockall in 1955 and sought to formally annex it as part of Scotland under its 1972 Island of Rockall Act. The consistent position of successive Irish governments is that Ireland does not recognise Britain's claim of sovereignty over Rockall. Accordingly, Ireland does not accept that a 12 nautical mile, 22 kilometre territorial sea exists around Rockall. We understand that the UK takes a different view. In addition, Rockall and similar rocks and skerries have no significance for generating an exclusive economic zone or establishing legal rights to the continental shelf. We believe this position is reflected in the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which provides at Article 121, paragraph 3, that rocks which cannot sustain human habitation or economic life of their own shall have no exclusive economic zone or continental shelf. I can assure the House that reaching an agreement on issues relating to Rockall remain an important issue for the Government, and the Department of Foreign Affairs is in ongoing contact with the relevant Scottish UK authorities in this regard. This is an area that I know Minister of State Dooley has committed to contributing constructively to in the months ahead, as he has in his time in this portfolio. In conclusion, Cathaoirleach, the programme for government recognises the valuable role of fisheries in this country. I am committed as Minister, alongside my government colleagues, to defending the interests of the Irish fishing sector and to securing a sustainable future for the sector. It is a sector that makes an invaluable contribution to our coastal communities and the rural economy, and we will continue to work on addressing the issues it faces on behalf of the communities that rely on that activity for their livelihood. Thank you, and thank you to the County Recorder's Office for facilitating this really important debate today. Thank you very much.